Morning class, welcome to your daily current affairs. So we are starting it again. Let's go with today's current affairs, whatever topics that have been coming to your paper Hindu. So yes, first one is about cookies to boycott peace panel over CM's presence. So what is happening actually? So the racial or the community wise discrimination is being happening there. So they started making it into a violence protest. Mighties are the communities present in this Manipur. So they are trying to violate the existing government because they are asking for reservations. So that is what the issue currently. So what happened? The current chief minister there have organized this, is going to organize this peace panel. For that, whoever are being invited, they are trying to boycott. That is what about this particular news is. So representatives demand that center make the situation conducive for talks, even as several members of the panel say their consent was not sought before their names were added into the list. So to create a discussion, they have added certain list into this particular panel, and to those who have already added into this particular list to talk towards for mighties and to talk about or to talk against these mighties, the list has been made on who should constitute this particular panel, and this list people were not even informed earlier for their consent. So consent has not been taken, so they are trying to boycott. And the other reason is that the current chief minister of Manipur, Biren Singh, and his supporters are also included into this particular meeting. That is why they are trying to boycott. So that is about this particular news. Okay, fine. So we will see, and the panel includes COCOMI. What is this? Coordinating Committee on Manipur Integrity. This is a civil society group which is actually participating into this mighty issues. Good morning, Burhan. Good morning. Okay, so this community civil society group is actively participating into this issue to war against cookies. So cookie is a community and the war is waged by whom? Mighty community. Okay, so has declared war against cookies. We want peace, but at its critical junction when violence continues, we cannot hold talks with Manipur government. That is what they have clearly mentioned. Next, cyclone Biparjoy set to hit Kutch. So Ran of Kutch, it is going to hit Ran of Kutch. So you need to understand this is the western part of the country. So which is the ocean that is being affected here, or the cyclone is due to which ocean? Arabian Sea, right? So cycle Biparjoy set to hit Kutch. Gujarat begins its preparations. So important for your disaster management. Cyclones are prevalent in your Arabian Sea. So this is the month of June, and imagine currently this Arabian Sea surface temperature is favoring towards the occurrence of cyclones. Okay, fine. So with the extremely severe cyclonic storm, Biparjoy expected to make landfall on Gujarat's coast on Thursday. The state government has started preparations by deploying teams from both national and state disaster response team. So we have authority. What is the nodal authority here? NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, with the Act of 2005. So under which there is a constitution that you will be having a national disaster response team and a state disaster response team with which they are going to work upon resolving or to be implementing the prevention, that means the pre-occurrence. During the pre-occurrence of disaster you will be having certain steps to be followed. So for that, and even during the disaster they will have certain mitigation steps. So for that they have recruited them. Will set up shelters in 6 coastal districts. So 6 coastal districts they have set up different setup for people as a rescue team. Then there is yet no clarity about the exact location of its landing, but the India Meteorological Department said, so that is IMO. IMO is responsible for all weather forecasting things in India. So said that Biparjoy is likely to make landfall between Mandvi in Gujarat and Karachi in Pakistan around noon on June 15th. So this is June 12th. So they are planning earlier. Okay, just a second. Fine. Next, Okay, this is about university, that is not a much important article, so I am just skipping it. AP Genco synchronizes new 800 megawatt unit of NTTPS with grid. So what is it doing? This is the power generation products of AP. Important, the nodal authority here they are talking about is AP Genco. Okay, fine. So Andhra Pradesh Power Generation Corporation, Genco in the sense Generation Corporation, Power Generation Corporation, Genco. Okay. So this Genco on Sunday successfully synchronized the 8th and the last power generation unit of Dr. Narla Tatarao thermal power station. So this is thermal power station, that means generation of electricity through coal, non-conventional energy. Okay, NTTPS near Vijayawada with the electric grid. So this was done after the completion of all commissioning activities and tests. 800 megawatt built on 80 acres is likely to be commercially operational by the month of July. So this is the last power project that is happening in the country, in our state. Okay, NTTPS, AP Genco. Okay, fine. Because currently our focus is on renewable energy, so limiting this non-conventional source of energy, non-renewable source of energy. Okay, next. And the efficiency of this particular power station would be 800 megawatt. That is the expected one. Next. Only 8.87% of arable land in Rayalaseema region gets irrigation water. Very important for your governance. So if you are questioning the criticism of a particular place, imagine this, in Rayalaseema alone. So this is a local news of Andhra Pradesh. Only in Rayalaseema, if you can take arable land in the sense the land which is suitable for agriculture, only 8.87% of this land is receiving irrigation. So rest all lands are depending on only monsoon. Okay, rainfall. So when the average water availability in arable land in Andhra Pradesh is 30.27% of the 215 lakh acres, it is just 8.87% in Rayalaseema region. So in entire Andhra, if you can consider overall arable land, that means if you consider Andhra, so if you consider Andhra, only in Rayalaseema region you have 8.87% of arable area, arable land under irrigation. Rest of all the area, that means in the rest of Andhra Pradesh, if you can consider overall, how much is it? 30.27 area is arable land. Right, next. So according to the figures available with the state irrigation department for the past 10 years. So this is a consolidated report of 10 years. So decadal consensus. So what is it mentioning out? That only 8.87% from Rayalaseema alone is getting irrigation. Okay. So a comparative study reveals that how successive governments neglected the region for not investing enough in developing irrigation. So one point to be noted is that Rayalaseema compared to the other places in Andhra Pradesh, that can be a coastal Andhra or northern part of Andhra, Rayalaseema is the area which is prone for drought. And this area is receiving at most very less irrigation level for arable land, which showcases the faults in existing government policies. Okay, fine. Next. Another important local article. So what is this about? 315 child laborers, street children rescued in state. So one of the major issues with current children is that they are being worked as a child laborers. So they are being displaced at the area level and they are working as child laborers, and some people are being rescued by the state. So this is a continuum project which has been happening, and it has been rampant since around from February or from January. I've been seeing this in the news. So what is happening currently? 315 people have been rescued. The Labour Department, which is the nodal authority or the responsible department for this, Labour Department. So Labour Department constituted 50 teams headed by district collector. So Labour Department headed by your district collector, DC, as a part of month-long drive from June 1st against meanness. So they are starting to have at monthly target. So from June 1st, they are trying to have this children being rescued. Okay. So joint force teams have rescued 315 children engaged in various establishments during the ongoing drive against child labour in Andhra Pradesh. So that is what they are trying to do. They are trying to eliminate, they are trying to scrape out this existing child labour. So this comes under your article 24. 24 of your fundamental rights, article 13. Okay, fine. Also 21A, education, right to education. Fine. So the teams comprising the officials from education, labor, health, village, ward secretariat, police, juvenile welfare, factories, women development, child welfare, anti-human trafficking and other departments, Bachpan Bachao Andolan, child rights advocacy foundations are the participants of this particular unit. So you imagine understand who are the teams that is working to rescue these people. First, educational team, laborers because they are working as industrial or some way other labor in labor associations, that is in the industries. So next, health department is working upon. Why? Because in India we have very much less nutrition levels. So health is again department which is involved. Then village and ward secretariat, the third level, local self-government. Okay. Next, police and juvenile welfare. So there might be people who are of criminals under age of 18. So they will be involved or they will be dealt with juvenile welfare. Okay. Fine. So next, factories and women development, children. So all the time children included with women. Okay. Fine. And trafficking units, and this is a third parties, that means your civil society part. Bachpan Bachao Andolan, Child Rights Advocacy Foundation are the participants. So civil societies, NGOs. Okay. Fine. Next. This is again some private news, not much required. So this entire article is about again the rude issues or the current violent impacts on your mighty community on Manipur. So you need to know the exact figures, what happened. So violence in Manipur which has gone over a month now. So since a month this violence have been triggered. Initially what happened, there was the government authority which has clearly given a GO, government order stating that we will be further, mighty community will not be receiving reservations. So issues started there. Since 10 years, so since past decade they were fighting for the constitutional recognition of reservations for them. I mean they want that recognition of SC, ST somehow. But they passed a GO stating that this will never be happening. That triggered this particular issue. That is a core issue what happened. So immediately it has turned into violent issue. Almost 100 lives were already gone because of this. So claimed well over 100 lives, displaced 1,000 more and has opened up many raw wounds that most people have belonged to a bygone era. The spectre of unbridgeable divide between the mighties and on the other hand Kuki, Chin, Mizo, Jomi, Naga tribes. So this is about scheduled tribes, not SCs. Okay. So scheduled tribes, on one hand you have mighties and on the other hand you have Kukis, Nagas, Chin, Mizo, all these people are on the other hand. Okay. Fine. So most sensitive issue, and currently people are thinking that they are in an ocean. So this author, this person M.K. Narayan, he says, who is he? He is a former director of Intelligence Bureau from National Security Advisor. So even IB exams will be there, no? So he is one such authority. He has mentioned that people currently are assuming that in Northeast there are no issues. They are being integrated with the country. But still yet there are many issues which needs to be resolved. That is what he has mentioned here. So most of the people think in the same way they have been already integrated, but yet lots to be assumed. So it is easy to make different calculus regional centric. So he says that it is easy whenever the outbreak of violence of magnitude takes place and to harp on certain aspects such as existence, an excess of region centric calculus, lack of internal cohesion, ethnic caste rivalry. So he is mentioning these are the reasons why they are triggering ethnic violence. So what are those? No proper calculation or evaluation, like what is actually happening to. Why, how we have to. So this is also similar to your disaster management. So you need to plan. The mitigation thing should be there, preventionary measures should be there. Same thing they are trying to plan here. Okay. So apart from that, he has mentioned one thing here, that Delhi needs to acknowledge itself. So we have already seen recently, I think in the past week itself, Amit Shah has visited Manipur. Now the other news which we have seen earlier is, now they are trying to constitute a panel, peace panel. They are trying to communicate with mighties and cookies. Okay, they are trying to come into same lines. Now this author says that it is high time that Delhi needs to involve into it. It's not the state. Okay, so Delhi needs to acknowledge to itself that the situation in Manipur poses a problem if no mean magnitude. An answer has to be found sooner rather than later before it ignites similar conflicts elsewhere in the region, whereas tensions also lurk, because mighties might trigger further violences So all the northeast might be influenced because of it. So you need to mitigate it now only. That is what the entire crux of this editorial. Important, you can just go through this. Internal security, GS3 of your UPSC and rest all other topics, this is important. Mighty issue is very important. Next. Miles to go. Okay, we'll see what is this. Miles to go, economy is better poised but still needs deft steering and mindful reforms. So this year the expected growth rate is around 7%, but now it is showing a higher than expected of 7.2%. 7.2 is something which we have expected, 7 initially, then again they have forecasted, other foreign countries have forecasted that it would be around 6.87, but what we have targeted is 7.2%, which we have speculated, and currently as per the estimation it would be more than 7.2%. That is what they have given, but still we need certain issues which needs to be focused on. Miles to go. So what is this? India's economy is firmly out of the throes of pandemic blues. So what does that mean? So clearly India is out of the impact of pandemic. So it is no longer impacted by pandemic and other western disturbances. That is very clear. Even Russian-Ukraine war, it is still beneficial to us somehow, if you can see in the economic perspective, but yeah. And there are certain areas which are not beneficial too, like in the manufacturing sector we are importing their crude oil first thing. So high crude oil, windfall taxation. Then you have sunflower imports from Ukraine which is being delayed. Then manufacturing wise we are seeing huge issues as China have stopped our imports. So all these things are there. Okay. Apart from that, what we need to focus on? India's economy is firmly out of the throes of pandemic blues. Higher than expected 7.2 growth rate last year could actually be an underestimate. The country is now poised for a decade, if not more uninterrupted, 6.5 to 7%, even if no further reforms are undertaken. So this is showing the positive aspect of the level of economic stability existing in our country. So even if you don't follow anything for this year, like no economic reforms, no further containment by the RBI or by the government, still there would be a speculation growth of GDP by 6.5 to 7%. This is the existing stability of our country, but still if we take more reforms, it would be more triggering to a high shaped development. Okay. So if no further reforms are taken, yeah, this was a key message given by the Chief Economic Advisor Anant Nageshwaran. So currently our Chief Economic Advisor is V. Anant Nageshwaran, who is responsible for economic survey document. So he is the person who will be giving us economic survey document a day before your budget. Okay. So that would be last working day of your January. Okay, fine. So prognosis of the state of the economy conveyed to industry leaders last week, India asserted could now go for a longer period of 7 to 15 years as China did between 1979 to 2008 without running into overheating problems as it did after 3-4 years of strong growth in recent decades. So what is it mentioning? India currently growth rate is or can be equated to China's growth rate of 1979 to 2008. So during 1978 or during 1970s, India's and China's was almost in similar lines, but due to their reforms, they have grown into a very large economy. So currently India is in that particular phase. So again the other reasons would be our demographic dividend, skill updations, then our environmental goals, all the things. You need to understand all the Saptarishi priorities which we have for this particular budget, which is helping us now. So we will have the rampant growth rate in this particular financial year, that is what they are mentioning here. Okay. So that will continue for a period of next decade and most probably, immediately for 3 to 4 years and continue still the next decade. Okay. So strong momentum, everything has been mentioned. So apart from this, so with sectors of steel and cement seeing higher capacities in action, sections of industry may well start loosening the purse strings soon, but a broad-based revival may take longer, needs more actions to buttress the confidence building. So in the three sectors which we have, agriculture, industry and services, industry is constituting less, right? So to compensate this, if you can know, in industry, manufacturing alone is constituted 17% of GDP. So almost less than around 20 to 25% is something which is being contributed by industry. So in such cases, it is a high time that we need to take reforms in industry. So that is the thing which they have mentioned. Next, apart from that, you need to encourage. So unless private investment recovers firmly and revs up job creation for millions of youth, demand growth shall not sustain enough to create virtuous cycle. That means currently India is witnessing huge requirement of demand, that means huge demand for development. So that can be your jobs or requirement from people of India or citizens from India is huge. To utilize this into economic circulation, reforms are mandatory. That is what he is mentioning. So in that case, who is responsible or whose need is necessary here? Private investment. Private investments triggering to job growth. So that is about this article. That's all not required. Next. Amplify the subject of adolescent nutrition. So I will be giving you only this data. So apart from that, rest all is a common thing which you need to know. Through NFHS 5, National Family Health Survey, what has happened? Adolescent girls are particularly vulnerable to undernutrition and anemia due to the onset of menstruation. So this is a period of time during adolescence. Women will be maturing, girls will be maturing this particular time. So menstruation cycle will start. So in that particular case, undernutrition is very common in these particular people who will not take enough nutrition into their body. Okay. So the findings of NFHS 5 confirmed this concerns as a staggering of 59.1% adolescents were found to be anemic. Imagine, almost 59.1 in the sense, consider it as 60%. 60% of adolescent girls in the country are suffering from anemic. Understand the level of, so it's not only about the anemic conditions, imagine the other domino effect of these particular things. So their education might not be proper well, health conditions might be worsening in the future level. Okay, so they are not going to add up to the demographic dividend or the economic perspective. All these things you need to understand, social, economical, all dimensions, technological dimensions you need to analyze. Okay, so with the NFHS 4 numbers also having reported over 41.9% of school going girls as underweight. So apart from this, school going girls, that can be from your first class to 10th class. These people have reported that 41.9% school students are, school going girls are underweight. Okay, underweight. So apart from that, it makes the situation more complex that the range of factors from environmental conditions to cultural norms lack a general neutral environment within the household affects the nutrition. So what are the affecting causes? That is also important. So you know the impact that because of these adolescents are showcasing the phenomenon of underweight, undernutrition and your anemic conditions. So what is the reasons you need to know? First thing you need to understand, that is menstruation is the first reason. Second reason would be environmental conditions. Third would be cultural norms. Division between this general neutral, the lack of general neutral environment within the household affects the intake of nutrition into adolescence. This particular part is important in the entire article. Rest all strategical norms have to be taken. Women should be given priority, and these are the government current existing policies. So your way forward or the existing government policies. What is this? The convergence of various government initiatives such as Scheme for Adolescent Girls, SAG. So this particular scheme within the umbrella of the Prime Minister overarching scheme for holistic nutrition development program. What is this? Poshan Abhiyan, and currently it is in phase 2. So this is a step in the right direction provided it is implemented effectively. And next one is Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, which include even more stronger awareness for this adolescent targeted schemes. Okay, fine. So three schemes have been discussed: Poshan, SAG, which is scheme for adolescent girls, and the third one is Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram. So direct you can write it in your answers, or even if it is in your options, this can be directed towards your women, nutrition, health, adolescence. Okay, next. Yes, so that is something which is important. Rest all not required. Yes, next. This is very important for your polity. Again, governors cannot indefinitely hold bills. Okay, so you have different kinds of bills that is being introduced. So when we are talking about governor, that means it is talking about local, your state government legislature, means state legislative assembly or state legislative council. Basically state legislature it is talking about. So who are the people that are involved in the state legislature? Governor, your state legislative assembly, and if it is a bicameral legislature, you will be having state legislative council. Okay, these three bodies are responsible for your state legislature. And now governor, so who is the governor? He is a representative of center representative will be acting in the state. now there is a proper criticism on governors existing now, and even before that, these people are acting as representative spies on state government, and they are trying to impose, or they are trying to custody or constrain the existing policies of non-ruling parties. That means the ruling party in the center, if it is different from the ruling party of the state, then because of this tussle, governors are acting as a barrier for implementation of any kind of schemes. Example, BRS, Telangana. So you have clearly Tamilisai as governor of Telangana, who is clearly creating barriers for approval of bills. So she is just using her pocket veto, she is just upholding these bills for an unlimited period of time. They have approached to Supreme Court on this too. Okay, fine. So what is the issue? He is mentioning that they should not be holding it for a longer time, and as per constitution there is no proper time limit given for governors for their approval. So it is under the discretionary powers of the governor, okay, and currently that should not be taken as an advantage by them. So discretionary shall not be triggering into any kind of further arbitrary powers, okay, fine. So recently issues have arisen in certain various states between chief ministers and governors with regard to the passing of bills. Chief Minister feels that the governor have not acted unduly for the period of time, for a longer period of time in bills for that assent. So this is a tricky situation of parliamentary democracy where people elect a government to enact laws which reflect their will. If an elected government cannot legislate, it could lead to the breakdown of parliamentary democracy. So understand the terms here. Parliamentary democracy, elected government. So tricky situation of this chief ministers and governor tussle. So what is this parliamentary democracy? So it's not president here. So we have dual role. So at the center level, so we have three blocks, right? Three-tier government system. You have central government, state government, and the local self-government. In the local self-government, you have municipalities, you have village panchayats. Okay, panchayat raj system basically. So in the center level, you have presidential democracy, which means you have, parliamentary democracy, which means you have two. The real executive and the nominal executive. So the nominal executive is your president. Let me draw a flow chart so it will be clear. So at the central level, you have president as a nominal executive, or the de jure. Next, the real executive is your prime minister. De facto, the real one. De facto in the sense the real one. Next, at the state level, so here also you have de jure, de facto. So who is de jure, who is de facto? Governor is de jure and chief minister is de facto. Okay, so governor and chief minister. So then what about at local levels? So I have told you local levels is further divided into municipalities and municipal corporation. Then your panchayati raj. So this panchayati raj is your rural level and this is at your urban level. Now, so here you have de jure de facto. Then what about your panchayat level? Do it exist any kind of existence of such kind of de jure de facto? Why? Why? So till here we follow indirect democracy, okay, where we choose our own elected representatives and rule ourselves. Whereas in the local self-government, we chosen or we have opted for democratic decentralization, which is your direct democracy. That means people will form into a group and they'll choose their leaders. I mean, they work, they come up with plans and they work together. And apart from that, again you have different sectors like Jilla Parishad, Block Parishad in your Panchayat, who are being elected from these particular Gram Sabha. So there also you have the indirect democracy too. But still the real power lies only in people. It's not about the rule, the person who is actually leading them. Okay, fine. So now coming back to this parliamentary democracy, to ensure that there is equal priority or the level of discretion and the level of cooperation coordination between the de jure and de facto is apt at the center. but at the state level it is missing, because here the governor is acting as a part or as a communicator of center. That is what issue here. Okay. So now they are mentioning that if they are not able to clearly enact laws in such kind of issues, that means if the government representative itself is abstaining or it is restricting the existing state government from passing the laws, then the issue would be with parliamentary democracy. So it is triggering the lapse of parliamentary democracy, which is again the essential feature of constitution. Parliamentary democracy is one of our basic structure doctrine now, so that is going to lapse, right. So here we need to discuss about your article 200. Article 200 states that when the government is presented a bill, so basically this is reserving the bill for president. If a particular bill is being produced by the state government, obviously the assent, the bill will become act at the end only if governor gives his assent, gives his or her assent. So currently, if the governor wants that particular bill to be reserved or to be approved by president, he can reserve or she can reserve it for president's approval under article 200. So this is again the center factor, that means stronger center, that you need to understand. Unitary feature. Next. So governor's role, the legislature of a state comprises of governor and the state legislature, which I have already mentioned. So the governor has little autonomy in his functions, is a settled legal position that he can act only on the advice of council of ministers. So even if you take the conditions of national emergency or any kind of issue at the central level, president should not act on her or his own whims and fantasies. They need to work on aid and advice of council of ministers. Same goes with the state legislature. They need to work with aid and advice of who? Governor needs to work with aid and advice of the council of ministers. So, but what is actually in reality? It's not happening. So the intention of framers of the constitution was for the president or the governor to act only on the advice of council of ministers, and the actual governance of the state or country is by the prime minister or the chief ministers. So they are clearly mentioned that the de jure and de facto difference. Okay. So now the issue here is whether the governor has discretion or not in a particular matter is significant as per article 163(2) of Indian Constitution. So this decision cannot be challenged. So whatever the decision, so article as part of this particular article, the decision cannot be challenged. But in Shamsher Singh versus State of Punjab, the Supreme Court held that president or the governor can exercise their discretion independent of the ministers only where the constitution expressly permits them to do so. Until now I have mentioned one perspective that that can be president or governor should be working under the clear advice of council of ministers. So until unless they aid advice, till that case president or governor should not be active. But there is an exception which has been mentioned in Shamsher Singh was the state of Punjab in 1974, stating that if the constitution allows the president or governor to exactly follow what they have given, then definitely they have their arbitrariness to be ensured. Okay, fine. Still one thing you need to understand, even then their discretionary powers or their acts is under the purview of judicial review. So at the end we have judicial review too. Okay, fine. So that is something which is important. So assent of bills discussed, rest all again not required. So just go through this article, is a very important article for current issues. Next, IAF and army carry out joint exercises in the central sector. So Indian Air Force and your army, so Indian army, both are coming up with a joint exercise. So what is this article about? The Indian Air Force has carried out a general joint exercise with Indian Army in the central sector with deployment of multiple combat assets to check the operational readiness of two forces. So how far they can integrate, how far they can cumulate with each other. Okay. So the exercise follows IAF's two strategies missions over the Indian Ocean that invoked Rafale and Sukhoi. So Su-30 Mk. So they are currently working upon two missions, strategic missions of IAF, which is Rafale fighter jets. So both are fighter jets, Rafale and Su-30 Mk jets. So IAF did not divulge into the details of the date and venue of operations. So they are still under secret. Still they haven't revealed on how or in which place they are going to conduct this joint exercise. So again they have mentioned a lot of things that is not required. Next. Om Birla. So who is Om Birla? Our current Lok Sabha speaker. So India is leading the world in every field, said our current Lok Sabha speaker Om Birla. So Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla on Friday presented Lions Club International's Roar to Restore Sustainable Development Goals Awards to 20 individuals and organizations at Lions International 4th Roundtable discussions held in Delhi. So this is an international institution, so which will work for the people, like similar to your NGO or civil society, but at the international level. Okay. So what is this Lions International? They have given certain awards to many people, excellence in different fields. I will tell you what are those fields too. So for those people, they have given 20 individuals and as well as organizations as well, they have given awards. And in that particular meeting, he has mentioned that India is leading in every other sector now. It is seeing unprecedented growth rate now. So they were recognized with a contribution in different fields. What are those fields? Journalism, social impact, women empowerment, health, community empowerment, sustainability and education. So all these are linked up with SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, which are targeted to 2030, started from 2015, and it has 17 goals, 169 targets to be achieved by 2030. Okay, fine. So India is leading the world in every other field. Coming true belongs to India in economic, social, political, democratic fields. There is a discussion on India's SDGs everywhere. We have long discussion on the platform of Parliament. So every other sector, even in the budget session too, the main focus is on SDGs. So whatever the welfare schemes or whatever the areas that you go, we are focusing on sustainable development. So effective usage of existing resources, okay, without being diminishing it, okay, fine, or minimal diminishment. Jaishankar holds talks with German Australian ministers. There is nothing more here, they have just talked about how far we can invest. So and SDGs too. So I will just give you a brief overview on this, nothing much important in this article. See, pleasure to begin G20 development ministers. So they have mentioned about this and they spoke about shared priorities. So you need to imagine that these countries, Germany and you have Australia, which have come into our country for G20 like meeting. So we are hosting this G20 right now. So yeah, they have come and they have discussed about bilateral relations and cooperation. So in that shared priorities were being discussed, how far we can be together, and discussed about the sustainable development mission and third country partnerships. Third country partnership. What is the third country partnership? Who are the third countries? So this goes back to the story of your Cold War era. Okay. After this Second World War end, then there was two major blocks which are formed. One is your Western Bloc, one is your Eastern Bloc. So Western Bloc is your NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, leading by US, and the Eastern Bloc is dealt by your US and also European countries. Okay, and the Eastern Bloc is dealt by majorly USSR. So which is your Eastern Bloc through Warsaw Pact. During this particular time frame, countries like India, Africa, and different other places of Africa, countries in Africa have emerged as a newly independent country. So we have got freedom and we are trying to emerge into new developed countries. In such cases, we had two choices. We are left with two choices. One, to join with the Western Bloc, which is NATO, or with the Eastern Bloc through Warsaw Pact. But India and other countries like Africa were not ready to join either of the blocks. So they formed into a different organization called NAM, Non-Alignment Movement. So such countries which have formed into separate particular block and had a balanced relationship between the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc is called third world countries. Okay, and also the development when compared to the Eastern and Western Bloc countries, the development of these third world countries are a bit less. So mostly the developing countries, underdeveloped countries will come into your third world countries. Okay, fine. Egypt is also part of your NAM. So with us, Egypt, Yugoslavia are the starting partners of NAM, including India, Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, fine. Next, Center to complete 3D digitization of museums. So as part of this 2023 budget, they have announced that museums data, whatever the museum we have, suppose let's say if you go into a museum, you have artifacts, you have certain monuments that have been there, sculptures, all these things will be digitalized. Digitalized in a sense, don't imagine that just they have a particular photos, so everything which you can just go through it. No, digitization in the sense they are using utmost cutting edge technologies like your, let me show you, like 3D printing, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, which can showcase that existing monuments into reality. So it mixes the reality and gives us the feeling that we are present in that particular time frame. So that is what the level of digitization that is going to happen, and that will be completed by this year end. Okay, and this includes different museums like Salajing Museum in Hyderabad, Allahabad Museum in Prayagraj, then Indian Museum in Kolkata, Victoria Memorial Hall, important, and the National Museum and the National Gallery of Modern Art. So all these places, they are consolidating the existing monumental data in museum. Okay, fine. So Culture Ministry is a nodal authority and has 10 museums within its ambient, including those mentioned above. So apart from that, there are other 10 which are completely, entirely there are 10 museums which are being integrated into digitization. Fine. Next, children of the bush. So this is not much important. People have been rescued. Children have been rescued in Amazon forest. So they have survived for a 40-day long period by eating jungle food. They know what are the eatables that they have mentioned in that article. Nothing much important. Next. Decline in unemployment rates, economy. So this particular month of May, so we are in June, so definitely we will be having rates of May. So monthly report of unemployment showcases that 7.7 is the percentage of unemployment rate currently. Among the aged people 15 years have been seen a decline of 0.8% when compared to April 2023. That means compared to the previous month, this month it has declined to 7.7% by 0.8%. Okay, that's it. That's it for today's articles. Nothing more to be discussed in this today's articles. So thank you for the session. We will meet again tomorrow. Good afternoon.